All right, it would appear that we have re-established the line to City Power spokesperson Isaac Mangena, who are warning this evening that if the residents of Johannesburg don't reduce their electricity consumption, they might be plunged into darkness. Mr. Mangena, let's come back to you very quickly before we lose you. So the reality is that we are going into the winter season now, and heaters are going to come out. That will put certainly a strain on your system. If indeed it does lead to a collapse, what happens then? Do you implement what we have come to know as load reduction?
Thanks for having us back, and apologies for that break. Yes, we are basically looking into the options. Obviously, load reduction is a last resort. When implemented, we do it as a last resort, after hoping that whatever the awareness campaigns that we are putting together will basically change the attitudes of our residents, of our customers around the consumption of electricity. Because currently we are even paying penalties, on some of our substations that are always finding themselves in the red due to the maximum demand basically reached and exceeded in some point. So that is a regulatory issue with Eskom and also NERSA. But most of these are not actually happening across all our substations. Obviously, with winter, we have had winters in the past, and we have basically been able to sail, with our readiness with our winter strategy, our resources that have been pumped in, knowing that winters come through, material being put in place, and even maintenance happening. But we are finding that there are those substations, especially in areas where there is a lot of illegal connections, where there's a lot of theft of electricity, which are basically, hovering around that red point, where they might basically get to a point of, shutting down or breaking down for prolonged periods. And that's why we are basically saying to those residents in those areas that we really need to basically start taking this seriously, because if it doesn't improve, then we may be forced to embark on load reduction, targeting some of those substations.
Let me borrow from you on that phrase that you've just used, prolonged periods. Load reduction, when implemented, how long does it go on for versus what we have become used to? For example, if Eskom is load shedding, that will give us about 2 hours if it's stage 2 and power comes back. How long are load reduction periods?
So the good thing about, not really good, but the thing about load reduction is that in instances where we are able to control it remotely, we can basically do that. For example, with the ripple relay systems that we've installed in some of the geysers in some of the areas where we operate, we are able to basically look at the consumption of Mugambi's household, and then we're able to say, let's switch off remotely the geyser for now, because of it seems like they've got a lot of power guzzling appliances that are on. Let's switch off the pool pump, let's switch off the geyser without even Mugambi knowing. But in that way, we're basically trying to say you can be able to still cook, you can be able to still warm your house with a heater, you can be able to still have the light and TV on, but you are not going to have those appliances that are really consuming a lot of electricity, including the geyser and the pool pumps. We can be able to do that, but we also want the customers themselves to be able to do that, because of there are those substations that we are not able to see remotely, and that we won't be able to basically control in terms of that ripple relay. So load reduction will basically be implemented not for longer periods like with load shedding, and we'll basically alternate substations so that we don't inconvenience customers for prolonged consecutive days or times, as it were, with load shedding.
But that's exactly the complaint, though, Mr. Mangena. Some residents are saying that this load reduction, it goes on for extended periods, where sometimes it even goes on for days.
Based on the regulations, you are not allowed to prolong load reduction. Load reduction is a temporary measure to try and ensure that we save the infrastructure, to save the network from any possible shutdown or any possible explosion. After some time, when we are able to basically recover in terms of the acceptable levels of consumption, then we're able to reinstall people. Yes, in some areas, there is what we call load rotation, not load reduction. Load rotation will happen where, like, for example, currently we're embarking upon this in the Bellevue Observatory area, Kensington area, where we are having issues of capacity due to the fire that happened in December and the cables that were damaged, the oil cables that were damaged. So we have an option of switching off that area for 6 months so that we can do the repairs and install the cable. But what we're doing is that with the interconnector cables that we have there, which are not really are not good in carrying big capacities, we can alternate the suburbs in that area. That's what we're doing. That is called load rotation. So we switch them on for 4 hours and then change to another suburb for 4 hours, so that at least there could be lights and people can be able to move to go ahead with their things. But with the reduction, it's only often affecting a substation, one substation, because of it's basically moving into that red dangerous zone where it might actually be damaged for prolonged times, and it doesn't take longer than the 4 hours that I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, there is an even more ominous warning coming from you, because you're saying if Eskom reinstates load shedding, load reduction will continue parallel the rolling blackouts in high usage areas. What would that give the residents? Say, for example, Eskom implements stage 2 and that very area was using electricity too much. How long would that period be, parallel load shedding?
So when there is load shedding, really, I don't think there's any need for us to embark on load reduction, because already we are saving electricity. Remember, when there is load shedding, we are not basically electricity is not being used by the customers. It's taken away for at least two hours. If it's stage 2, and we're not, our infrastructure is not under any threat, and also there's no theft of electricity, because what we are warning about is mostly in the areas where we're basically seeing an increase in the theft of electricity. We're seeing an increase in in illegal connections. That is where we're warning about this. But if load shedding happens, it means that theft is not really happening, because of the customers are not really using electricity, so they may not be used parallel to each other. So it's not like a customer will basically have 2 hours of load shedding and then 4 hours of load reduction. So that will not. And we are hoping that we will stay like this, and load shedding, that it does not return, so that we can be able to. And I'm saying this with the hope that customers will basically heed this call. Because if they are basically changing their attitude or behavior around consumption of electricity, we won't even have a reason to basically embark on load reduction. That is what we normally call demand side management of consumption of electricity. And we have been calling this, even during load shedding, that customers need to basically use this power sparingly. Eskom has been doing that, including other municipalities. So it's just about customers basically heeding the call, and we're not even talking about this in the coming few weeks.
Yeah. Can I ask you about a separate matter, Mr. Mangena, while I still have you on? Is there some kind of upgrade when it comes to electricity meters? If so, what do people need to do?
Thanks for that question, Chloe. And I think it's very important so that customers can also know and understand some of the programs that we're embarking upon as City Power, but also even as Eskom. Most of the electricity, businesses, they're basically embarking upon this upgrading or resetting of the meters, because of in November 2024. The numbers, as we know them, the unit numbers of most of the units that you put when you buy electricity are coming to an end. So we are running out of those numbers. So universally, globally, all these meters need to be reset so that they can be what we call TID compliant, so that you can be able to reset those meters and be able to ensure that by November 2024, you still are able to buy the units. Otherwise, if we are not resetting or reprogramming those meters, reconfiguring those meters, you may not be able to do that. So yes, indeed, we are embarking upon this. We have already done almost 300,000 meters across the city of Johannesburg. We've got more meters that we still have to basically ensure that they are reprogrammed or reconfigured before November 2024. In fact, we've set our target to be at the end of June, so that every meter is done. And then if there are any remaining ones, we can just basically set out our technicians to do this. We're doing this in two ways. One is us sending out the team of agents to the customers, knocking at the door and basically ensuring that they help reset these meters. The second one is where we ask customers to do it themselves, especially if they are using smart meters, so that they can basically just be on the phone with the technician from or an agent from City Power, and then they can be able to just do it themselves, and then they can punch the codes that we give them, about 2-3 codes that they are supposed to punch, and then in that way the meter will be reset. Yes, there have been some teething problems, especially in terms of areas where we have reset these meters, and when customers buy electricity, after that, they are having difficulties in terms of putting those meters. And we have been helping, we've put out their team to basically make sure that they help those customers after we have moved away from resetting those meters.
Isaac Mangena speaks for City Power. Thank you very much for your time.